A dangerous storm system will rapidly develop across the southern United States over the next 24 hours, bringing an all-hazard severe weather threat. Tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds will all be possible as the system winds up and heads to the east through the weekend. Meanwhile, out in the Caribbean, tropical cyclone development is looking more and more likely. I'll break down where that system is likely to go once it develops and show you what kind of weather you can expect where you are as we head through the weekend. Welcome into the channel, friends. Happy Friday to you. Hope your work week is ending on a great note. My name is Jason, tracking the weather for over 4 decades, and I can tell you that fall is usually either pretty quiet or pretty interesting, and we've got an interesting 2-week pattern coming up. A lot of activity, especially this weekend. We're going to get into the severe weather threat, of course, the tropical threat as well. Fall is a changeable time period, and the weather forecast can change quickly. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so by hitting the subscribe button down below. Turn those notifications on so you can be informed when the weather changes. I will let you know every single day I put out a video, and certainly like the content if you like it, and leave a comment in the comments section. All of that helps me out. It helps us grow the channel together, and I really appreciate all of those comments. If there's anything I can be in prayer about, that's most important to me. Put that down there, and I will make sure that we pray for that. Folks, we've got an active weekend ahead of us here in the east. We've got a storm system that will be developing across the south. You can see on the surface map here, big cold front kind of stretching through, moving east. Energy out west is going to combine with energy diving in from the north to create a big low pressure system over the Mississippi Valley, and that's going to race off to the northeast, bring a cold front and a severe weather threat. Outside of that, though, today, this afternoon, going to be very, very nice up and down the east coast, going to be nice out west, maybe some clouds, but not looking at a lot of precipitation till you get up here to the northern tier today. But over the next couple of days, folks, we've got severe weather back in the picture here. Second severe weather season is kicking into gear, and you can see marginal threat for hail and wind potentially out here in Oklahoma, portions of Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, and up into the western portions, we'll call it, of Missouri around Kansas City, kind of centered in there. But we're looking mainly at wind and hail being a possibility in a very isolated basis. But boy, oh boy, tomorrow could be a very active day from early on in the afternoon through the evening hours into the overnight hours. A slight risk is already up from southern Illinois through western Tennessee, rather, down in here to western and northern Mississippi, northern Louisiana, back into eastern Texas and Oklahoma, centered around Arkansas, southern Missouri. Folks, we're going to have an active day here with tornadoes possible. There's a 5% chance of tornado development already. Wind and hail are possible as well, particularly on the western side of this. Now, wind will be a problem as this line segment continues to congeal through the evening and head east. We'll take a look at future radar in just a moment, but I wouldn't be surprised to even see an enhanced risk at some point tomorrow. And then that threat shifts east up into the eastern Great Lakes and interior sections here of the Mid-Atlantic, and really back west of the Mid-Atlantic, but up in here into the Ohio Valley as we head into Sunday. And again, maybe we'll see a slight risk. The system is looking pretty dynamic, folks, for this time of year. Here is the energy map. We take a look at this occasionally. We're going to start here. Notice this. This is our shortwave energy in the, as we'll call it, the southern branch of the jet stream, although we don't have a traditional split flow. Here's a piece of energy up here, and another piece of energy coming ashore, bringing some rain and showers up into the northern tier in the northwest. Now watch what happens as we get on into this evening and tomorrow morning. Look at this. This piece of energy out of the north is racing down to meet up with this piece of energy across the south. We're going to see showers and thunderstorms break out all around in this region here as we go through the afternoon and evening tomorrow. This is in the Arklatex area, back into the southern Mississippi Valley area. This short wave is very dynamic. A lot of wind energy in the mid-levels of the atmosphere is going to bring shear. Those two pieces of energy will combine here across the Tennessee Valley and shoot a low pressure up in this direction toward the northeast as we go out in time. But you can see that phasing. That's called phasing when you have two pieces of energy kind of come together, and the trough is starting to turn negative tilt as we go on in through Sunday. This is Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon. You can see this trough taking on a slightly negative tilt, that is southeast to northwest, and that is indicative of shear in the atmosphere, strong winds in the mid-levels, and again, it will pull in moisture from the south as well, though the southern end of this, where cold rain lives, and friends, we're going to see limited moisture and probably limited precipitation, but the best dynamics are going to certainly be over the Ohio Valley into the northeast. If we take a look at instability here on our instability map, this is thunderstorm fuel. You can see as we move out into the overnight hours tonight, got a little bit of instability from Oklahoma to Kansas into Missouri, where that severe weather threat is sort of marginal and isolated today. But look what happens tomorrow. We get higher values working into Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and over into Arkansas, folks. By the end of the day tomorrow, some of that will be eaten away with thunderstorm development and the thunderstorm complex as it moves on into the east and matures. But then we get on in towards Sunday morning. Not a lot of instability left to work with, and it doesn't really get all that far to the north, but there is some. So where there's some, and you've got lots of dynamics in the mid-levels, can offset some of that instability. So we still have to watch up here in the northeast and the Ohio Valley through Sunday. And of course, the SPC has already highlighted that area for at least a marginal risk. And then instability moves across the south out ahead of that cold front. It will eventually push offshore Sunday night. Everything's gone out of the picture, just left with some rain up here to start the week up in the northeast. If we take a look here at the radar, I've already advanced that along. Let's bring that back. This is Friday morning, got some rain going across the northern Great Lakes area, and then as we go through the day today, more rain showers through Montana, snow in the higher elevations, and then as we get into the evening hours, start to see that frontal boundary light up as that energy from the north starts to catch up with this energy from the south, and that southern piece of energy will continue to provide a moisture transport out of the Gulf and set off showers here in Missouri and Kansas, and we're going to look for a few isolated thunderstorms. But look what happens as we get into Saturday morning. Really start to see things cranking up here. That energy is just getting more and more consolidated, and we'll eventually see a more consolidated line segment start to break out here, and the severe weather threat increase through the afternoon hours on Saturday, 2, 3 o'clock. We're really going to see things start to crank up here, and then that northern piece of energy will combine, and you'll really see this thing take off. And you can see thunderstorm development through the evening hours, afternoon hours tomorrow. Line segments, we're starting to see a squall line form. There will be some thunderstorms out ahead, and where we have some discrete supercell activity. We're not going to see lots and lots of big discrete supercells, but we're going to see some of those, and rotation with those will be more prominent, and we'll see that tornado threat increase. And we'll also have line segments that we have to deal with through this area, and some spin ups along and within those line segments will be possible too. But definitely as we get on through the evening, you can see that squall line really start to take shape Saturday evening into the overnight. Plenty of rain working into the Great Lakes area through the Midwest. More stormy weather pushing in to the northwest. I told you it's going to be an active pattern. We're going to see one storm system after another come in and possibly produce severe weather, snow in the higher elevations, and plenty of rain across the north. And you can see as we get on into the overnight hours, that activity kind of dies in intensity. You get a southern piece that kind of moves to the south, and then the main storm system has phased at this time. The trough is turning negative, and plenty of instability and shear will create a maintenance of that squall line through the Tennessee Valley into the southern and mid sections of the Appalachian Mountains as we get on in toward Sunday morning. And then Sunday afternoon, you see that squall line kind of thinning out, but there will still be some intensity to it. I expect wind reports up here through Pennsylvania and Virginia as we get on into Sunday afternoon and evening, and then everything kind of pushes through, and we're left with scattered showers and thunderstorms through the Carolinas and through Sunday afternoon and evening, and then all of that will push off and plague the northeast by Monday morning. Could see some thunderstorms up here in New England as you wake up and head out the door for your new work week on Monday morning. But definitely need to pay attention tomorrow afternoon here in the Arkansas area and surrounding areas there. That's the most intense that will be the most intense activity of the weekend tomorrow afternoon through the evening hours, and then Sunday we'll have a little bit of a lesser risk, but still a risk of scattered severe thunderstorms in the northeast. So watch the forecast. I'll have another update tomorrow and see how things are going. Right now we're going to turn our attention to the tropics. Before we do that though, got your weather IQ question for the day, so stick around. As we head into the winter months, we're going to be talking about oscillations more and more. What are oscillations? Well, they're just regional weather patterns that we've indexed and categorized. We put numerical values around them, and it helps us understand the weather patterns in those regions. Moreover, it helps us understand what potentially will be the effect of the weather across the United States based on these oscillations and what state they are in. So we're going to be talking about these more and more as we head into the winter months, because it's when they become predominantly important. And today's question is about that. So here it is. The oscillation that most heavily influences the weather across the North Atlantic is called the NAO, the PNA, the AO, or ENSO, okay? If you know the answer, type it in the comments. If you don't, just hang out to the end of the show. I'll tell you why and what the answer is, and actually why it's the case and what these stand for, okay? So we'll get into these here in just a few minutes. Right now, I'm going to talk about the tropics, because we've got more and more models now thinking that tropical development is likely in the Caribbean. We're going to look at that right now. Well, it may look like the Atlantic is getting more and more active here as things light up on the map, but don't be fooled. This northern system only has a 10% chance of developing, and it would likely just be a subtropical system and acquire a few of those tropical characteristics as it gets into this region and moves harmlessly into the North Atlantic down here in the south. That's where we're watching for development and something that could affect lots of people, and potentially more of those people that would be affected would be in the Caribbean and potentially along northern South America into Central America too. There's a tropical wave. It's going to get into this area here where the waters are very warm. Shear will be decreasing, and a 30% chance now has been given to this area for development. I think it's probably going to end up being higher than that as we go on out in time. We take a look here at the actual satellite image in the Atlantic. You can see that big storm swirling off here off of Newfoundland, just south here of Nova Scotia, and south of Newfoundland too, and it's going to move that way and not really harm anybody. There's a cold front, and here is what we're looking at down here. Right there. That's the big tropical wave we're looking at. It's going to move steadily to the west-northwest over the next couple of days, few days, get in here to the Caribbean where the waters are warm, as I said, and we're going to see development most likely in that area there. If we take a look at a couple of models here, kind of run this out and show you what we're looking at. European model, we're already out here day 6, okay? This is day 6, and there's that low right here in the Caribbean. And look what the European does. It just sort of meanders it down here around the southern Caribbean, gets it right down into the little nook here between Central America and South America. Sits there and spins, then heads to the north, bringing squally weather and showers and eventually hurricane conditions in here to eastern Cuba and over into Haiti, parts of DR, and really just rains you guys out for several days. That would be a very, very bad scenario if that were to play out for you all down here in these areas. But definitely look for rain across northern South America into Central America. And the European, by the end of 2 weeks, still has this system down in the Caribbean, though slowly moving to the north. GFS actually keeps it over here in the eastern Caribbean like this, bothers the Antilles and over into Puerto Rico, and then heads it on out that way. That's what the GFS is doing there. Now let's take a look at some ensembles, because we really want to pay attention to what the ensembles are showing and see if they have agreement between different suites. This is the European ensemble, already run out to 6 days, and as we take a look here, most of those ensemble members that develop it, and there are quite a number that do, keep it down here in the southern Caribbean over the next 7 to 10 days, but then we start to get some divergence. Some ensemble members take it into Central America as a hurricane, and some develop it and move it to the north, but 10 days out, it's still in the Caribbean according to every single ensemble member, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 that early curve like the GFS does, okay? So that's what the European ensemble is showing, and none of that is threatening the United States as of this run, the latest run. Now here is the Google DeepMind. Look at all of these L's now. There's a lot more L's than were on the map yesterday, so the Google DeepMind is now starting to see tropical development, and look what it does. It sort of splits here. You've got one camp going out this way, and it's not a small camp either. Look at all these L's coming out of here, and then you got another camp kind of going down that way like that. So watch those as we play this on out through the next 10 days. And as we get on out here toward day 10, and you see what's going on there, and a little bit past day 10, but most of the ensemble members for the Google DeepMind really don't bring it out of the Caribbean toward the United States. You got a couple that kind of meander down here, and several more that actually go to the north and to the east, just east of Bermuda, okay? So Google DeepMind has no threat to the United States. What about the GFS? Well, the GFS, as you would expect, is kind of all over the place as we go on out here with the GFS. It has just a whole shotgun smattering of lows. Most of them are moving north by this time, so we get into the day 10 time frame, and you've got a lot of L's still sitting in the Caribbean, but most are kind of moving to the north and to the east. So still, we have no models bringing anything into the United States, which is great news, but the Caribbean, folks in Cuba, the DR, Haiti, the Windward Islands, over in Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Colombia, and all of these areas, these countries in Central America, are going to have to watch this because you guys are under the threat of heavy rains and strong winds, and we could have a pretty major, substantial hurricane down here as these waters are very warm and shear will be very low. So we're going to have to watch all of that play out over the next 10 days or so, but the good news is we should be in good shape across the United States at least over the next 10 days to 2 weeks, and beyond that we'll have to keep our eyes open. But that's a tropical update, folks. Going to look at the temperatures over the next couple of days and that long-range pattern. We'll wrap up with space weather and the answer to today's IQ coming right up. All right, I told you we've got an active weather pattern coming up. I'm going to prove it to you. Right now we've got a big ridge anchored in the middle of the country, and that's been semi-anchored there for much of the fall. Got a new system working in through the Rocky Mountains. That's going to be their big weather maker as it moves into the east this weekend, kicks that ridge out. And watch what happens. We're going to see a parade of storm systems move into eastern Canada, the northwest tip of the U.S., and come into Canada and enter the U.S. from the north in a northwest trajectory. What this means is that we'll see precipitation across the north, but they're not going to be able to tap the Gulf, so places along the south and southeast are going to stay high and dry for the most part, though these storm systems will crash in and bring a quick shot of fall. At least we don't have that big ridge anchored in the center of the country anymore. That's kicked out, but these systems will amplify into the northern portion of the country, bring in some cool Canadian air. And over time, that storm track begins to change a little bit, and the trajectory brings it in toward the mid-west coast as opposed to up into eastern Canada. That would allow potentially more amplification across the south and bring some southern areas into play with precipitation out over time should this pattern take hold, but it looks like it will. Some of the other models are showing this too, a farther south storm track, but either way, we're going to see one storm after another. The weather's going to be variable. We're going to see rounds of rain, particularly across the west central portion of the country and the northern tier, and that's where we'll find chances for severe weather as well. So we're going to have to watch this pattern to potentially be a fairly decent severe weather maker out in time. In the meantime, taking a look at the 6 to 10 day, the official prediction from the Weather Prediction Center is 22 through the 26th of October. We're looking at mostly below in the east with the exception of southern Florida and northern New England, and then mostly above out in the middle portion of the country. But we will see bursts of fall coming in, so it will be variable. Mixed here in Alaska and above in Hawaii. Precipitation mostly going to be wet out here in the west as those systems begin to crash in. I would probably paint a little bit more in the way of normal, at least across the north here, but got a big area of below, extends into the southeast, which is expected, and then above here in the north where the brunt of the moisture will eventually focus. As we take a look at the temperature pattern of the next couple of days, just to give you an idea, Friday today going to be warm everywhere up here. We don't have any colors up here in the northeast for some odd reason, but temperatures are going to be the 50s today, 60s down here toward the south, and then as we get on into the midsection of the country, 80s. Going to be very, very warm across the south as well, and back into the northwest and northern plains, back into the Rockies, highs in the 50s, so not too bad here today. Tomorrow, as we go on out in time, another missing color area. I'm not sure why this is the case today, but 50s are in the green, just know that. 60s are in the yellow, 70s start to get into the orange, and then 80s surging here into the Mississippi Valley, and 50s out west. And then as we get way on into the southwest and California, we're looking at 70s and potentially some 80s into the southwest. Hey, we've got all of our colors here on this map. 50s across the north as we get into Sunday. That cold front pushes through, squashes that heat, and brings some warm weather out ahead of it here in the east, but that will progress on to the east throughout the afternoon and the evening hours as that front moves through. All the warm weather is confined to the south, and we see highs in the 50s and 60s across the north. Looking at lows over the next couple of days. Got all our colors on this map too. Lows in the 20s and 30s out here in the northern tier and the Rockies and east of the Rockies as well. 40s, and then we find 50s up into the Ohio Valley, and cooler across the northeast. Highs in the 30s or lows in the 30s and 40s. And then certainly cooler as that cold front kind of moves through on Sunday, and then we get into Monday morning. Lows plentiful in the 30s and 40s through the Ohio Valley back into the Rocky Mountains where it's cooler out there. The warm lows are going to be across the south as you would expect. And that's your week ahead forecast. Now we're going to wrap things up with space weather and geological weather. Not a whole lot going on here with space weather. Was expecting G2 storm conditions, but now we're only expecting G1 storm conditions. It looks like some of that solar wind has lightened up a bit as it's approached us from those CMEs that left several days ago, but we do have this coronal hole that is now straight at us. It's going to be turning away. Enhancement of solar wind expected. No solar flaring going on. Still watching plenty of sunspots, but the scary ones are turning away. We've got several coming in, and some of these are growing and morphing around, so certainly something to be watched. But right now, the risk of big solar flaring is low. We did have a 6.5 earthquake down here in Indonesia. There's Papua New Guinea, however you want to say that. Papua New Guinea, I think, is the right way to say it. And it's way down here and north of Australia. You can see the Australian continent there. So pretty big shake there. And the other thing I wanted to show you, and we'll just do this right here on the fly. We'll come on down here to our sun, moon, and space map. I always like to go here and take a look at the moon phases. And here it is. They're 14.2% today, going down all the way to new moon status, or a new moon phase here on October the 21st. That is coming up. The next full moon is early November. And do you remember what that moon's called? If you don't remember, I'm going to tell you, but not I'm telling you today. I'll have to let you think about it for a little bit. I'll tell you tomorrow. Anyway, folks, that is it for the show today. So that brings us into the answer to today's IQ question. I've got that for you right now. So the oscillation that is most heavily influences the weather across the North Atlantic is called the what? It is the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation. The PNA is the Pacific North American Oscillation. I bet you can guess what area is associated with that in terms of ocean. The AO is the Arctic Oscillation, and ENSO, of course, is the El Nino Southern Oscillation. And all of these affect our weather. The NAO, particularly in the east, plays a fairly big role. It can create blocking to the north that slows the storm track and causes amplification of storms, and potentially allows cold air coming in from Canada to meet up with that big storm system working up the east coast. And we've seen this before, haven't we? Plenty of times throughout the past several years, we've seen big storm systems affect us in that way. And certainly an NAO can help us get more and more snow and ice along the east coast and interior sections of the east as well. So there you have it, folks. That's the show for today. Hope it has been fun and informative, and certainly we'll be back tomorrow. Keep you updated on the severe weather. Follow me on X at Real Cold Rain, and TikTok as well, the same, and Instagram the same. In any event, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you back again soon. God bless and take care.